This is one of my daughters. One of my daughters has been here before, Niara, and now this is another one of my daughters who is here, Norissa. And I have known Norissa since she was a tiny little girl, and now she is almost a grown woman. And she, as a matter of fact, to a certain degree, legally, she's 18, and so 3 more years at 21, she'll be fully grown. But as far as the state is concerned, in some areas at 18, she is now grown. And we're going to talk about the fact that Norissa's getting ready to go to college. We're going to talk about like her major and experiences in high school. And more importantly, why I had her come on the show to begin with is the fact that she has released a musical CD. So Norissa, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Norissa, and I am newly 18, as you said. Almost grown, able to vote. I just graduated high school this past summer, and I will be going to Temple University in Pennsylvania.
All right, she's heading to and she just gave you the Cliff Notes version. She gave you the abbreviated version of her bio, but Norissa is a very successful young lady. Matter of fact, like I said, when Norissa was a little girl, she was a reader. I mean, it was like I would be on the couch with my leg up, nose in a book, and I would look on the other couch or either on her bed, and Norissa was in there, leg up, in a book. She was doing that since she was a child, was very studious in school, attended Passaic County Technical Institute. At one point in Patterson, she was in the Gifted and Talented program. She went to Norman S. Weir. So she's been in all the top educational programs in terms of Patterson and ultimately going to Passaic County Technical Institute. Now, at Tech, what did you major in, Norissa?
My shop in Tech was medical arts.
And what is that? What's medical arts? I mean, medical arts is broad. What did you focus on, or how do they do the program? Do they just teach you a broad scope of medical, or did you focus on something?
Well, each year they had a different program. So freshman year, we would all do just an introduction. Then for us, at least sophomore year, we would go into dentistry. Then the junior year, we would go into CNA, getting our license at first aid and all of that. And then my senior year, you had a choice of either getting a job at school or going into medical assisting or becoming an EMT.
Now, when you say CNA, because I was at Norissa's graduation, and I kept hearing everybody talking about CNA. And actually, I went to her award ceremony. It was the Medical Arts Award Ceremony. And I hear all these kids coming up to the stage, and I kept hearing the teacher saying CNA, and I'm sitting there looking at her mother like, what is that? What is CNA? What do those letters stand for? So what does CNA stand for?
Yes, CNA stands for Certified Nursing Assistant. Certified
Nursing Assistant. So Norissa walked out of high school already with a certificate of Certified Nursing Assistant. So as you heard her say, they have the opportunity to work their senior year in high school, and you were working this year at an assisted living place?
I was working at a nursing home, actually, in North Hilden.
Okay, so it was an actual nursing home. Okay, so, and like, what was that? I mean, because this is my personal belief in terms of every job. And if you heard me pontificating in the last hour after I put on the podcast, you know how I feel that every job to me is a calling. In other words, you have to have a certain amount of spirit or whatever it is to work in these different jobs. There are people that come to me as an educator. As a matter of fact, I had a police officer standing in my office one time in full uniform, gun, badge, hat, uniform. He said, I don't know how you do it. Now, this is a police officer talking to me as the principal of a school saying, now, mind you, what police officers deal with on a daily basis out in the street. And he's telling me as a principal inside of a school, I don't know how you do it. And I looked back to him and said, I don't know how you do it, because if I had a gun, and both of us just broke out in laughter, because if I was a police officer and I had a gun, I don't know how he was, and I get the whole police brutality thing and this, that, and the other. And I guess that's why some people can't be police officers, because if I was one and had to deal with what I deal with and had a gun, I'd be tempted to use it. So the fact that he could use that much restraint with what he deals with on the street, and yet he's standing in my office talking about he didn't know how I did it in terms of dealing with kids in a school. I'm saying all that to say I come across people like Norissa who work in a nursing home with everything that goes on in the nursing home. You have folks who are incapacitated. You have folks who are suffering with depression and bipolar and Alzheimer's and dementia and all kinds of just age-related illnesses, and yet you have to be patient. You have to be kind. You have to deal with cleaning feces and urine and wheeling them around in the wheelchairs. And I am convinced everyone cannot do that. So, Norissa,
I definitely agree. It is a calling. I agree with the police officer more than I agree with you. I'll take taking care of one of my residents over being in any kind of school-related thing ever, any day. I mean, not that I don't like kids, but there's a limit to, doing that kind of thing. The kids will tire me out. But with my residents, to just like with everything in life, with every job, there are, the parts that people don't really like. And then there are the ups, the lows and the highs. Like whenever my residents tell me, oh, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for what you do. And I'm saying, it's just my job. And, even though like it's my job, but it still has that, rewarding feeling of, you're doing something right. You're doing the best you can. And, you can deal with it because even though they're going through something, you can be that person to help them through it. You can be that person to tell the nurse that they're feeling bad and get them the medicine that they need, or just be that person that they can talk to, because I know it's really lonely in those kind of places.
So what drove you, because we were talking about calling, what drove you, because everybody as a kid, they figure out they want to do this, that, or the other. What caused you or drove you to feel like you wanted to go into medical?
Well, I was definitely one of those kids that didn't start out with knowing what they wanted to do. I used to want to be a teacher for some strange reason. When I was in first grade, I wanted to be a first grade teacher. Second grade, I wanted to be a second grade teacher. Then I said I wanted to be an eye doctor, cardiologist. I made sure I learned those words when I was younger too. And ultimately, I just wanted to help people. So I wanted to give myself options. And so going into tech and going into the medical arts shop, figuring, hey, I have a CNA license now. I just want to use it. And a lot of my friends said, oh, I don't want to be a CNA. That I don't like that job. It couldn't be me. But, after, doing that for a while, I figured, I can do this. I can be that one person that says, you know what, I'm just going to do this.
So, okay, and again, you were driven that way. You started studying and you still have the interest for it and you've worked in it and you actually have the experience now of, it's one thing to have it in the classroom and in school. It's another thing, real deal, real time in life. And you've gotten that now working in the nursing home, and yet you still want to do it.
Yes, it's kind of funny getting that CNA license. My teacher, I don't know if anybody from tech knows Miss Davis, but she's a handful. She definitely told us like it was, and I still to this day remember some of the things that she told me. About the nursing home. She said, make sure you hold your own. That's one of the main things. And some of them, even just little things like spreading their bed, I still remember her voice and telling us certain things, but it's definitely different in the field. And that's one of the main things she told us, no matter how many times you practiced on that dummy, having a real person in your hands and in your care is completely different. And the emotion is different. And that first time, whenever I was volunteering to get my hours to get the CNA license, I know me and my classmates, all of our heads went blank. We were like, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do? So afraid of making mistakes, but ultimately that's how you learn. Absolutely right. And so again, what type of mindset or what type of patience do you know? How do you not let someone with bipolar or someone that's calling you names, how do you not take that personally? Oh man, there's, of course, working in this kind of field, you're going to get stories, you're going to get the crazy ones, but you have to keep in mind that look at the environment that they're in. We're not really supposed to be by ourselves as humans, and they have to spend all this time by themselves in their rooms, and then they have other things going on with them. Maybe their family isn't around to take care of them as much. Maybe they don't visit. A lot of them have something going on within their minds, and you just have to say to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Just think about all the good things. Think about the good points. Even though you have those certain residents that will talk bad to you, there's always a reason, and there's always going to be the other resident that tells you every day that you're doing a good job and, they appreciate you. You just have to focus on those good points and you'll get through.
See, again, that's what you were listening to, folks, is calling. Because what Norissa just said, everybody can't do. Everybody doesn't have the patience for that. And I tell kids all the time, don't take it personally. If you know something is not true, ignore it. But that is easier said than even when somebody's talking out of their head. Even when somebody that's not them talking. That doesn't sound like him or her. Or there's something there. There's the dementia. There's the bipolar. There's something that's saying that it's not that person. And yet you have to sit there and take that name calling or take whatever it is that person has said to you and not take it in personally. That's why I'm saying what you just heard Norissa say was calling. That wasn't by choice. That's a calling, because you literally have to be able to stand there and have somebody calling you everything but a child of God, or no matter what you do is right. No matter how much you try to comfort them, they're still not comfortable. And yet you still have to be able to smile. So that's calling. So, and I know there's some in the Lestine Robinson. I know you're in the listening audience. You worked in the hospital. I know you know exactly what Norissa's talking about. And those others that have worked in those kind of environments, that's calling. So now Norissa, she's gone through high school. Like I said, she did a year or so at the Gifted and Talented program in Patterson. She was an alumni, a honor graduate at Norman S. Weir School during her grammar school year, did really well at Passaic County Tech, doing wonderful up there at the nursing home, and now she's getting ready to go to college. Yeah. And she's been accepted at Temple University. She's going to be heading down to Philadelphia on the 21st of August. She's going to be a Temple Owl, and she's going down, and your major there is?
I'll be majoring in neuroscience. That's the science of the mind research.
The science of the mind. Wow. The science. And that is an area that is so needed now, because I've been doing a lot of studying on depression lately. And the statistics I've got is that over 350 million people plus around the world, maybe it was US, but 350 million people suffer with depression. And then you have, like I said, Alzheimer's, then you have dementia, and then you have other mental illnesses. So the fact that you want to delve into that, you'll be going into a really hot field. What, again, caused you to take that part of medical?
Oh, well, just thinking about all the, disorders and everything, neuroscience is really just a mix of, it's a mix of biology and psychology and a bunch of different things. It really does connect to everything. And so, I was definitely curious as a child, and I love thinking about how people think and why they do certain things. So you would think that I would go into psychology, but I've always loved science as well. And I like to see, why. I just love that question, why? Why does that person think that way? And then go all the way deep down to the science of it. That's really why I chose neuroscience.
So you were precocious and curious. I want to know why. So, why not engineering? Because engineering does the same thing. So why the medical piece or the neuroscience? Or
well, it does have more to do with like the human mind. I've always wondered why people do things, not really like why things work. Although that's a curious question as well. But I think it'll help me connect more to people. Right,
I understand. And now, what has been, like, during your high school years, or either working at the nursing home, or what has been some of your biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges? Well, probably my mind. They say mind over matter, and
Wait, you say probably my own mind. Okay, all right.
Yeah, definitely. The saying, you're your own biggest enemy. And,
right.
I'm still developing as a human being, my frontal lobe and all of that, not yet fully developed. So, everybody has their own setbacks and everything. So I think that procrastination is a big one, and just having to build that work ethic and having to juggle, time management and all of that. I've been struggling with that since I was a kid. I remember when I was in kindergarten, and I think I got called to the office or something, and the principal gave me 2 pamphlets, and one was for organization and the other one was for time management. And I find that funny because I still have a little bit of trouble with those 2 things today. It's funny that they caught it so early, as early as kindergarten.
That's really interesting, in kindergarten. Now, what I was sharing with Norissa on the ride up this morning was I said, seems like like magically when Norissa turned 18, like this big swoop of maturity came along with it. For some people, it, amortizes over time. It filters out gradually. But for Norissa, for me at least, because I tell her all the time, there's a lot that I may not say, but I watch. Those two things that she talked about seemed like when she got 18 and began to improve exponentially. Like, for example, this morning, I made it very clear, Norissa, we're leaving the house at 5:15. We got a hard go, not a hard stop. We got a hard go at 5:15 because we're on a timeline in terms of the studio. Sure enough, this morning I got up, Norissa was already ready. At 5:15, we walked out the door. Not an issue. No problem. No calling. Norissa, let's go. What is that? Nope. She was there, ready, bam, walked out the door 5:15. So a lot of these things that she said, and it is a progression. She's absolutely right. It's over time. And us being microwave people, we want things to happen overnight. It just doesn't necessarily happen that way. But as folks grow and grow, grow, it gets better over time. And that's what I've seen in Norissa. Now, this is not going to be Norissa's first dance on a college campus. Because as I told you, Norissa was always very studious as a child. And because of that, and her mother was very dogmatic on getting her into programs that would position her to do what she's doing. So Norissa got accepted years ago into the Johns Hopkins. What was the name of that program? It was a summer program.
CTY, Center for Talented Youth.
CTY. Now, again, we get into these acronyms. What does the CTY stands for?
Center for Talented Youth.
Okay, Center for Talented Youth. Norissa participated in that program for 2 or 3 years. I know at least a couple of times I remember us taking her to the campus. One was on down there in Baltimore. At Johns Hopkins.
Yeah,
we had
2 years was at Johns Hopkins.
So 2 years was at Johns Hopkins.
One was at Princeton, and the other one was at Dickinson.
In Pennsylvania. So Dickinson in Pennsylvania. She spent a summer there, 6 weeks or whatever it is. She spent 2 summers on the campus of Johns Hopkins University and a summer on Princeton campus. So I was sharing with her and her mother that this is not going to be Norissa's first dance staying in a college dorm. As a matter of fact, I shared with Norissa, you're going to have a leg up on some of your classmates that have never stepped foot on a college campus or have slept in a dorm or know the dorm arrangement or setup, because Norissa has had that. Like she said, the CTY. I always get these letters like crazy. CTY, CNA, all these. Okay. So we have the Center for Talented Youth. Like I said, she did a summer on the campus of Princeton. She did 2 summers on the campus of Johns Hopkins and a summer on the campus of Dickinson University out in Pennsylvania. I'm making sure I'm saying that because I don't want it to get mixed up with Fairleigh Dickinson here in New Jersey. There's a Dickinson University and the campus is in Pennsylvania. And I remember full well taking Norissa to all of them. Each one, wherever we would drop her off for the 6 weeks, she would go down and then we would get a readout, a report at the end of the session from the head person, whoever that dean or the principal of the program, whoever they were, and they would give us the report on how Norissa did. She always did well. So this is not going to be her first dance now that she's going down to Temple and to become a Temple owl. So ultimately, once you do your major, what is it that you want to become? I mean, like whenever you do the neuroscience and all that, ultimately, or have you decided that yet?
Well, before that, I just want to say that all those opportunities were because of my mother. I really have to thank her because
absolutely,
people always say, "Oh, you're so smart, Norissa, you're so intelligent, you're gonna go so far." But you know what? Everything, not everything, because I still have my own mind, but most of it is because my mom fought so hard. She's the one that gave me all these opportunities. I definitely couldn't have been going to CTY without her, and fighting for me to take that test, even finding the opportunity for me to go, and it's funny enough, CTY was the thing that inspired me to go into neuroscience. My last year in CTY, I actually took a small neuroscience course, and just meeting the professor and meeting all of those extremely intelligent, all of my peers, like all the same age, a lot of them younger than me, I was like, wow, this is a whole new field that I never really, I haven't really considered so deeply. And so like after seeing, how passionate this professor was, I was just enthralled with it. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to pursue this. So it's really research that I'm looking forward to, although I do want to keep my options open and, keep researching the different subdivisions of neuroscience to see, what else there is for me. But, starting with that curiosity, I do want to go into research, even researching about research, just, seeing what it's about. Maybe I can add something. And, since I'm a CNA, maybe I could be the one to figure something more about, dementia and depression and all of these other mental illnesses and brain diseases.
Absolutely. And see, the fact, and I'm glad Norissa brought that up in terms of the role of her mom in her being able to go to CTY. Because when Yvette started pursuing, she actually found out about it, and we went to the school system, and she was getting a lot of pushback in terms of scholarships and filling out the applications and all that. So she just said, you know what, forget this, I'll do it on my own. And she did, and she continued to pursue and got the scholarships, fill out the applications, and Norissa was able to go. My point is, it really is for our students about exposure. That's a wonderful, CTY is a wonderful opportunity that a lot of the children, particularly in a city like Patterson, don't know anything about. The bulk of the students that went there were Asian students, am I correct?
Yes.
The bulk was, there was very few African-American children, and Norissa was one of the few. Norissa was one of the few African-American students that were, and she actually went for 2 or 3 or 4 years, as we said. So she started kind of seeing some of the kids that had gone prior years. They kind of started seeing each other in other sessions in the next years. But there were kids coming there from China, Japan, California, all across the United States and around the world were coming to these talented youth 6-week programs on these college campuses, and very few African Americans. Yet the opportunity's there, but had her mother not taken the time to pursue it and to push her, she would not have gone. It's about the parental support. It is about the pushing. It is about pursuing, and it's about the exposure. And Yvette created that opportunity for her. And as you just heard Norissa say, well, it was something in one of those sessions that really kind of triggered me to want to go in this direction. It really kind of gave me the impetus to go down this neuroscience road. So again, I couldn't agree with you more. It really is about exposure. So Norissa's going to be majoring in that. And then, in the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about her minor, which is going to be, am I correct, music?
Yeah.
All right. Now this is very interesting to me with Norissa, because I was a musician. Whenever I met even Norissa's mom, I was a musician. Over the time, released the CDs. The music you're hearing right now is my original music. Had no idea that Norissa was really interested in music. And then one day she said she wanted to get a guitar. And her dad got her a guitar for Christmas. Am I correct? One year? Yep. She got a guitar for Christmas one year. And she went about that guitar with a passion. She was self-taught. Did not take one lesson, to my knowledge. Did not take any formal lessons.
No.
Right. Self-taught, started going on YouTube, started listening to music, and then lo and behold, actually started writing her own music. She started working with her musician at the church, Ozzy, started working with Ozzy and the crew down there, and then she started writing her own music. So we're going to talk a little bit whenever we shift gears, because I really want to get you an appreciation for Norissa's educational background, and then we're going to segue into what's going on with her musically, and we're going to break her single right here on Brave New Radio. If you've heard something and you want to talk to Norissa, you can give us a call at 973-720-2738. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to call. Those of you friends out there that know Norissa, if you want to call and talk to her or shout her out, feel free. You can come on. I'll put you on the air to do that. 973-720-2738. We'll be right. We're not going anywhere, but Radio Talk, we'll be right back. We're not going anywhere, and hopefully you don't either. Let somebody know Norissa's on the air. This is an inspiring interview, because this is an 18-year-old. And if you were to listen to the news or even listen to our president, you would think African-American children or African-Americans in general aren't doing anything. And that's just not true. Now, again, my love for African-Americans does not negate my love for Caucasians. But at the same time, I am tired of this myth. I am tired of this stereotype that African Americans and African American children don't do anything, because I know that's not the case. And I have Norissa here, and she is a testament to that. She is an example of the African American children can produce. They can do. They're not all on drugs. They're not all pregnant. They're not all sitting on the corner. They're not all sassing and disrespecting their parents. They're not all doing any of that. There are some children out there who have the exposure, who have the the parental support that are doing their thing. And Norissa's one of them. That's why I invited her on the show, because she'll be leaving for college in a couple of weeks. The CD or the single just came out. And I said, this is a perfect, go a little bit further into talking about the guitar before we release the single and talk a little bit about what the song is about. So, all right, Norissa, we said, you came up, out of nowhere, because Norissa always had a different interest one way or the other. I mean, I was teasing her the other day that I remember when she was a little girl, like 8 or 9, we had her out there. She said she wanted to play baseball. And we actually had her out there on like a little league baseball team with the hard ball, not the softball, not a sponge ball, not a colored ball, but we're talking about the little white hard ball that professional baseball players play. And so we had Norissa out there. She had her glove and everything, and the coach is out there hitting the ball. And I said, oh my God, this is a hard ball. Norissa's going to lose her teeth. And so, we said, nope, this is not going to work. Then Norissa wanted to play basketball, and she was fairly decent at basketball. She played on Norman S. Weird's team. When she got the tech, she played on the freshman team and what have you. She got a couple trophies in basketball. But then the guitar thing came, where she said, I want to play the guitar. And she got her guitar. And so where did the guitar come from? Where did that come from?
Well, even before I picked up guitar, I mean, my love for music was, from the beginning. Even I have a baby picture of me like with the little keyboard, and like I was in my pretty pajamas. I was probably like 1 year old or something, and I had my little feet on the keyboard, and I was just like messing around. And there was another one with me just like looking as a baby, like wide-eyed kind of stare, just like messing around with the keyboard. And I had a little keyboard for a while, and I used to love it. And even in my household, we would always have music going around. My mom would be playing gospel music, and she had her interest in the 90s, and my sister picked up her music taste from my mom, and music was always surrounding me. So when I was younger, I did actually I had a song. I think I made like a little song, probably based off of like Nick Jr. or something. But I've been writing, and I remember one of my first official songs that I wrote was inspired when I went to CTY. So I had written a couple songs, and I always had interest in instruments, but I didn't really, I couldn't really pursue it seriously. We didn't really have the finances for it. And then I just saw a lot of guitar. I saw my friends started playing guitar, and I saw it on Instagram and social media, and I was like, I really love this sound. I really want a guitar. And I kept on saying it over and over. And finally, one Christmas, my dad got me a guitar. And so I started practicing. I said, I'm not going to waste, this couple $100 guitar and not play it. And I really did love it, and then I started combining my songwriting skills with the guitar and what I learned. It was hard, learning how to press those strings and, getting those calluses on my fingers. But it was exciting to me. Those calluses on my fingers represented how much I worked, and seeing my progress was really exciting. And, today now I have, my single out with my guitar.
Yeah, this is the thing that, because like I said, Norissa picked up the guitar, and we didn't when I was a kid, I had piano lessons. I started taking piano lessons at 8, took them for 10 years to 18. That's how I learned to play the piano. Norissa didn't take guitar lessons. She totally is self-taught. Now, I kind of sort of get it, because over the last couple of months, so you've heard me say, I actually went out and purchased a bass guitar for me, because Norissa plays the acoustic guitar, right? Is it the acoustic or is the electric? The electric guitar. All right. So Norissa plays the electric guitar, and I went out and I have always kind of like fooled around in my head playing air bass. Like I'll sit here and I'll be doing my fingers and hands like this. And one day I just said, you know what? I'm going to take up a new challenge myself. And I went out and got the bass guitar. So I've been playing. Matter of fact, you're talking about calluses on your fingers. You're absolutely right. You do get those. As a matter of fact, something I think I must be holding my right hand wrong, because I have like this crazy sensation in my pinky. All the rest of the fingers feel great, but my pinky has this in it. And I got a feeling it's from the way I hold the bass. And then last night I put on like a special glove and I played, and pinky felt great this morning, so I said, "Got to be that. It must be that." But I digress, as as my girl on the Golden Girls can say, I digress. But Norissa was self-taught by going to YouTube by ear and plays well. And then, as she said, she started writing and singing. So, wait, so you not only wrote the music, you wrote the lyrics also?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, where did the lyrics come from?
Well, as a kid, I didn't really speak much, but I did pick up writing a little bit. So I would, write my thoughts in a journal. Sometimes I'd get mad, hormones as a little kid. And so I just write my thoughts out. And I really liked that outlet. So I had strong opinions, especially as a kid. I thought a lot of the things about the adult world were just so unfair, and I just didn't get it. So that's what most of my songs were about. That's actually part of what inspired this single, They Don't Tell Ya.
That's the title. So that's the title of it. They Don't Tell Ya.
Yeah, They Don't
So
Tell
the
Ya.
title of the single that we're going to break right here on WP 88.7 FM on Brave New Radio. The single is They Don't Tell Ya. Not you, because I had to be very careful whenever I told. I said, well, I want to make sure I get it correct on whenever I post it on Facebook. So, and I know how we do with words, like instead of saying Y-O-U, we'll say ya. So I asked her, I said, is it They Don't Tell You, which is, I know phonemically correct, grammatically correct, or is it, like we talk, like they don't tell ya? And she said, no, it's They Don't Tell Ya. Y-A. So I said, okay, so the title of the song is They Don't Tell Ya. Now, I'm probably going to play it more than once. I'm going to play it a few times throughout the course of the interview, but we're going to break it, and you could say you heard it here first on WP 88.7 FM, and Norissa's here live in the studio. Go into the words of your lyrics there. Talk, say the words for some of the verses, and then talk about it.
Well, first and foremost, I did write the lyrics, and I did start out with the original guitar, but the production has to go to Mr. Ed McCrae, and, music in the background, and Pastor Ronique Young. He did some of the, guitar on there. And, this single actually isn't really, it's not the...
No, that's all right. Like I said, listening audience don't know that. It's just, it sounded great to us.
Yeah. I'm just saying that it's not completely out. It will be out soon, though.
Gotcha.
Right.
First. Now, anybody in media, anybody in front of knows, you always want to have the scoop. You always want to have the first. So I can say we broke it here on this radio show, and it will be out and released like soon. All right. So you'll hear. So for those of you in the listening audience, whenever you hear Norissa Howell, or they tell you, or they don't tell you, they didn't tell you, whatever, however the title is, you'll know. Who was your production person again?
It was Mr. Ed McCrae. It'll be out on all your music. Social
It'll be
media,
on iTunes and all that stuff, social media,
Spotify,
right?
All the other ones.
And Ronique played on that as well.
Yes,
Ronique was
Pastor
playing on it.
Ronique
All
Young.
right, Pastor Ronique Young was playing, and I know Monique was doing a lot of work with you. There was a lot of behind the scenes that went into this, and I just heard the finished product, and it sounds really outstanding. I am thrilled. And as they can say, happy glad. And we know that's grammatically incorrect, but that's as they say, the old folks. See, they always talk about the old folks say, but I'm becoming one of those old folks. So when they say the old folks say, and they used to say happy glad, but you know what? I'm sitting here, my spirit is thrilled just listening to it because I'm proud of Norissa. I am so happy to see how she's developed as a young lady, given everything that's ever gone on in period, because some people don't recover from some things that go on in life. That's what she's saying. It's hard. It's hard. So that's why I want you to go back through your lyrics and kind of decipher them for the audience.
As I said before, when I was younger and, feeling out, who I was becoming and, taking advice from different people, I was really kind of upset at the adults sometimes. I felt like a lot of times it was kids versus adults, and we weren't being taken as seriously. And, that's mostly true. I mean, a lot of people don't give, a second thought to, what kids think unless you have one or you're in the education field. So I was, and even the people that do pay attention, sometimes they overlook certain things. So,
right.
Yeah.
Good morning. Looks like we have a caller on there. Caller, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. I just want to say that it's Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
Good morning. But I did have a question for Norissa.
Yes. What's going on, Ashley? What question you have for? Go ahead. Go ahead. You're on the air. Go ahead and ask her.
I just wanted to know, what do you think is your biggest challenge that you face in creating music?
Well, first of all, hi Ashley. Good morning. That's my friend. But my biggest challenge in creating music is the way I work with like regular schoolwork is the same exact way I work with music. So I only come up with things in bursts of energy, and the rest of the time it's kind of flatline. So sometimes I'll want to do something, but if I don't feel that creative energy, I don't think anything's going to happen. But then at other times, it really just depends on like the vibe and the energy that I'm getting that day. Some days I'll make like a song in less than an hour and everything will be done. And then some days I'll just have to come back to it, maybe like in a year. That happened to me one time. I had to come back to it in a year and finish it. And I was like, wow, this is really good. But like for now, I know I have to get more practice. But for now, I can't simply just make a song when I want to.
So Ashley, any other questions? And thank you so much for calling. And so, because those of us in radio know that just because the phone is not lighting up does not mean people are not listening, but it does make the show that much better when people do call. So thank you so much for your call. If you have another question, feel free to ask.
Unfortunately, I don't have another question, but I will say that I'm really proud of Norissa for doing that. Yeah.
Again, Ashley, thank you so much for calling. And those of you, Ashley, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Okay, we got some serious feedback there. You must have got your phone too close to the radio or something. But for those of you like Ashley that want to call us, it's 973-720-2738. Feel free to call. Like I said, because just because the lights are not lighting up on the phone does not mean people are not listening, because I listen to radio shows all the time and podcasts, and I don't call. And I hear the DJs asking and requesting people to call, but I don't call. So I get it. I understand it. But if you are listening, you know Norissa, you got a question for her, feel free to give a call, just like Ashley just did, to 973-720-2738. All right, Ashley, have a great day.
You as well. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Take care. All right. So just like Ashley, you can call as well. 973-720-2738. So Norissa was saying that in terms of the lyrics, a lot of times as a child, you feel like, parents and grown-ups really don't care what you think, really don't tell you, when actually they are telling you. But a lot of times as kids, we're not listening.
Right. I was getting into that.
So keep going.
Yeah. I beg to differ. I digress with the listening thing, because you know what? No matter what the parents say, we do hear everything. We're having trouble, absorbing it sometimes. But in the lyrics, I say a lot of things. Like I say, they don't teach you certain things. Some things they can't teach you, like the patience. That's a virtue. Some things you have to learn by example. And it seems like they don't have any patience for you. I mean, you don't really know what's going on in their lives. But as a kid, that's all you see. And, you're thinking, wow, why don't you just, instead of getting so mad at me, why don't you, just show me? So some things they can't teach you. You have to learn by yourself. And some things they just don't think to teach you. And you really do have to just, learn by yourself. They don't tell you a lot of the things that really, matter in the end. A lot of the things they do, because they love you. But there are some things that you really do have to just learn on your own. And you're thinking, like, man, I wish somebody would have told me that. Or maybe they did tell you and they didn't, like, you didn't, completely absorb it because you didn't know the weight of it yet. So there are different meanings to the song, really.
So, yeah, absolutely. And what I mean by not listening, I don't necessarily mean that you can't hear them. I'm talking about in terms of, because I was a kid, believe it or not, at one point. I was a teen at one point. What it is even though we physically hear, we still want to do things our own way. And sometimes doing things our own way, and I agree with you in terms of, okay, go on, do it your own way. And then whenever what we told you was going to happen happens, then you're going to come back and see and say, yeah, you know what? But for some people, they really do have to experience it for themselves. Like I can tell you that fire is hot 5 zillion years. And some people will still go over there and put their hand on that fire and say, whoo. Yeah, that fire was hot. Okay, you had to experience that for yourself. Now I don't have to tell you that no more.
Right. That's one of them. And then also the other meaning is sometimes, the adults, the parents and the other people that are watching out for you, they're so focused on trying to teach you one thing that they forget some of the other things. Like one of the lines said that they don't tell you that adults don't grow out of their faults. Like they're so focused on teaching you that they're not, getting across that they're human too. And that was one of the things that I used to be upset about. Like, why are you being this way when, you make mistakes too? I used to get so mad
Absolutely.
when I see adults make mistakes. Like, but you just told me, you just scolded me so much for this. And then when you make the same mistake, you say, oh, and that's it. When I get so much, I used to get, sometimes I still get so upset about that. But, like, the line says adults don't grow out of their faults. To get to where they are, they tore themselves apart. And they don't tell you how much you have to go through to actually get there where your imperfections are lessened, and we're not perfect. But somehow in my mind when I was younger, I was thinking, well, they said you'll grow out of it. I didn't think that it was going to be like a painful process. The way they make it seem is like, oh, when you get older, it'll just leave. It won't be a process, but it's definitely a process.
It is a process. You're absolutely right. And no, that's what I was saying earlier about like now in your instance, and I know it's over time and it happened to kick in. It's like, okay, back to my mom. I told you my mom was 80 and she'll be 81 in October, God willing. But she had said to me, it seems like when I got 80, because when I saw my mom last year when she was 79, she was different than what she was this year at 80. And she said, it seemed like when I got 80, like everything just fell in. And she said her friends who are of the same age said the same thing. Now, I don't know if it's a mind thing. I don't know what it is. But I do know I saw the same thing happen in Norissa. It seemed like when she turned 18, the maturity kicked in quickly. And it might be because of everything that you heard over the 18 years that finally just clicked. But it has been a process. You're absolutely right. It is it's not magic. It's not a form. There's a book called The Road Less Traveled. It's something Peck, Robert something Peck, whatever. I'll have to look it up. But one of the first lines in his book is something along the lines like life is difficult. And I think for a lot of us, what causes depression and frustration and aggravation is we're expecting it to be easy. We're expecting it to be problem-free. We're expecting it to be, and then when it doesn't happen that way, that's whenever the frustration and everything kicks in. And to your point about adults feeling as if they're perfect, maybe, maybe not. It's just that the adults are further down the road than you are, and they know where the potholes are.
Yeah,
and
I mean, whether or not they feel like they're perfect, whenever you're in that position of parent and child, they don't want to show you that. Most parents, I mean, as far as I know, they don't want to show their imperfections to their children. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think a lot of children need to see, to an extent, those imperfections so they can learn mommy has imperfections too. And she has learned, from her mistakes. And she still is learning because that's what being human is about.
I agree with you. I mean, in terms of the transparency with kids and with anybody for that matter, I agree with you in terms of being transparent. Now, let me help you understand why I don't want you to go down this road. It's not just a matter of me trying to be a dictator, trying to because I said so or because I'm grown and you're not. I'm going to tell you this because I'm trying to keep you from some pain. And this is the kind of pain that comes about because of this. This decision caused this. Now, if you still decide to go down that road, that's on you. But I'm trying to help you understand the pain and the process and the detours that it caused me.
Right. Well, as I get older, definitely, because I definitely made this song a couple years ago. But as you get older, you realize some things, you start talking about different things. Even me and my sister, we started, all of our conversations are way different than when we were younger. We talk about some nonsense when we're young.
Right.
But nowadays we're just, reflecting every time. A lot of the times when I'm talking to her, we're reflecting on what's going on around us and how everything has changed and what we learned over the couple of years. And it always surprises me, like, wow, we really are growing. This is proof of our growth. No,
there's no. I told Norissa, and see again in terms of transparent and no filter. The older I get, the less filter I have, and the more transparent I am. I told Norissa the other day I can have totally different conversations, and I'm having one this morning, even on the air, with her than what I could have last year or a couple of years ago. I can talk to her in a totally different way than I talked to her even as little as a year ago. And like I was saying about the whole maturity thing kicking, and like she said, the older you get, the more some of the things that your parents tell you begin to ring true. That quote that I was talking about in the book is called The Road Less Traveled, and the author is M. Scott Peck. And the quote that I always talk about is, quote, "Life is difficult. This is a great truth, one of the greatest truths. It is a great truth because once we truly see this truth, we transcend it. Once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult. Because once it is accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters." That's the quote I was talking about. And that's what Norissa is talking about to a degree, that it's hard. And I'm going to play the song again. If you've just joined us, you missed a goodie. I hope you've been with us, but if not, you can catch it on the YouTube channel. My guest this morning is Norissa Howell. Norissa is my daughter, getting ready to go to college. We talked about her going to Temple. We talked about her studies in high school. We talked about even when she was in grammar school. And now the fact that she's going to major in neuroscience, but she's minoring in music. And she has released a CD. She has released a single called They Don't Tell Ya. They Don't Tell Ya. Okay. And that was her interpretation of events that had gone on in her life, and it came out through song, as so many artists do. Or had a wonderful time, having a wonderful time talking to Norissa this morning, because it'll give you perspective from her age group as an 18-year-old. I mean, being 18 in the environment that we're in, because it is such a different environment, and you'll hear your mom, even I got a couple of years on your mom. It's an even different environment than it was between when I came through versus when she came through. It is totally different between where you're coming through now than what me and your mother went through. There were things that exist now that did not exist with us. Social media did not exist when we were kids. Cell phones did not exist when we were kids. All this exposure did not exist. I mean, a crazy president like we have now did not exist. We've had presidents that were a little off the wall, but this one is the most off that I've experienced since I've been on the earth. Okay.
Yeah,
as an 18-year-old now looking forward, what are your thoughts on how the world works, on how, what have I come into, or do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Who is it? Socrates that says, I don't know what I don't know, or what
well, that's true. Well, I don't know who said, but you're right. I don't know what I don't know.
It's
but
something about, I'm wise because I don't know that I don't know. Well, that's one of the quotes I live by. I'm just going to continue to, seek things out, because I can't have one set opinion on this world when there's a billion things going on at once, but I just try and see the good and the bad, because if you just, see the bad, and not intentionally, but, you end up getting in a state like, wow, this is hopeless. But
right.
You have to focus on what you
right.
can.
And I'm so glad because
control.
It's not hopeless. As bad as it is, and that's why I start the show with "Today will be the best day of my life." That's why I start the show with that. That's why we start reading from those, because it's not hopeless. Right. It can't be hopeless, because if once we think it's hopeless, it's wrapped. It's over.
Right, and as an 18-year-old, I mean, you're just figuring out, as a teenager, you're just figuring out how the world really is compared to what you thought of as a child, But we're all human in this crazy world that we live in. So, I mean, I have to continue listening to the people and figuring out for myself what to take from that, no matter who they are, just figuring out who you are, what your standards are, and what you're going to believe. Keep an open mind, but not too open. Absolutely. Right.
I'm with you. And again, you're getting ready to go to college, and me and Norissa had this discussion the other day as well. I mean, I know we had this one, and it's nothing that's personal, so that's why I can say it in terms of, with this not being her first rodeo in terms of being on a college campus, when I say that's going to give her a leg up, what I mean by that is some of her classmates, this is going to be for some of them, their first time out of the house. They may have been in a house with parents that allowed them to do absolutely nothing. They had no freedom whatsoever. So they're going to go away to a college campus now and for the first time be on their own. And I'm telling her, they're going to go buck wild, because they're getting that first taste of freedom and it's going to be away from mom and dad. It might be a few miles down the road or crossing another state where they figure like nobody can see me. Mom and dad don't know what I'm doing. I can do what I want to do now. I can come in when I want to come in, go out when I go out, sleep when I want to, not sleep when I want to, see who I want, not see who I want. She's going to be with kids. This is going to be their first taste of freedom, and they're going to be trying to pull her along into that. And back to that whole having your own mind thing, you're really going to have that, because now you're going to be on your own. And that whole time management and organization we were talking about earlier, you're really going to kick that in now because you're on your own. You're not going to have mommy there knocking on the door saying, Norissa, do this, Norissa, do that. And did you get in the shower? And you're not going to have that. It's going to be you doing it now. And so this is going to be, and for you, again, I say, it's not going to be that big of a transition because you've been in the environment in a 6-week interval for 4 years.
Right. And I have to say, it's because my mom raised me the way she did. She gave me those chances. I even got the chance to go out of the country a couple times. And, it's all because of her hard work and determination. She always told me, you're not going to be the less, so don't settle for less. Right. And the way that she raised me, I know that, as every parent is, she's a little bit worried for me, and I know that's just because she loves me, but it's because of her that I'm going to be okay.
That's absolutely right. And when Norissa talks about going out the country, yes, we gone out years ago. The first 2 trips I ran, and then Yvette took it over, and she's been running them ever since. But we've been all over the place. We've been to Germany, France, London, Italy, Switzerland, China. You name it. I mean, I think did you go to Barcelona?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't go to the Barcelona trip, but Norissa and her mom went to Barcelona, to Spain, so forth and so on. So Norissa's back to the exposure again. These kids that are exposed to things, they understand what the opportunities are all about. Kids, unfortunately, who are not, and that's where my job comes in, because my job as principal and teacher and all that is to try to expose as many kids, not just my own kids, as possible, to give them the same opportunities that Norissa and Noelle and Niara and Aria and all of them have. The same opportunities that they have are the same opportunities that I want for the kids that I serve in my various schools. So that's the whole thing, is the exposure. All right. So again, you had the chance to talk to Norissa. I got the text and everything. Everything's good. We've played the song. We played the versions that we had. Everything is good. At this point, that is not an issue. The song sounds great. I'm happy for Norissa, and just where she's headed. The production of it is good. When the release dates come out, everybody will know. I'll make sure they know. I'll let them know when they can get it, how they can get it, where they can get it. But right now, they heard it here first. That's the main thing, that they heard it here on WP 88.7 FM. Nothing to worry about, not an issue. No issues, no worries. So, Norissa, what is up next? What's up next for Norissa? More music, entire CD, what's going on?
Well, no matter what I do with my music, I'm still going to continue to do it. I mean, one of my good friends told me, it's not going to be about the money or the publicity. And, you think you know these things because you hear it all the time, but, when she said it to me again, it really did resonate. You have to do it for yourself, and it's gonna be a slow start. It's one of those things, but you really have to do it for you, and that's what I'm planning to do.
Well, I can tell you now, while I may have had dreams of grandeur of my 2 CDs being reaching Michael Jackson status, we understand that's not reality. We get it, and it's not necessarily for the money, because I know for a fact I've probably put out more money advertising the CDs and for the CDs, the production of the CDs and advertise. I know I've put out more money than has come in, but you're right. It's not about the money, but there's something about the fact that people get an opportunity. Okay. Anytime you do anything artistically, you're sharing a part of you. You're sharing something that came out of you, and the world has an opportunity to experience that. Okay. So while we may not become millionaires from our music or our books or what have you, we've had an opportunity to share with other human beings something that was in us. And that can leave a legacy. Your song, I tell people all the time, my CDs and books and this, that, and the other will outlive me. I'll be dead and gone, and somebody can still pull this up on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. Same thing with authors. You never know where a book is going to wind up, in a basement or in an attic, and some kid 100 years from now come across it. So you have the opportunity to share a piece of you with a wider audience. Mark, this music has been, because it's been, now I haven't made any money off of it, but it's been on internet stations all around the world.
Right.
People in Brazil, people in Ecuador, people in Madagascar, you name it, has had the opportunity, because I had the tracking. I could see where listeners were tuning in, have heard the music. Now, they may not have bought it, but they heard it. So they got a chance to experience a piece of me. The same thing with these interviews. Same thing with, because we don't know who's listening out there. I didn't know Miss Mason, her grandson, all of them were listening. They called in. Ashley was listening. Anybody else want to call in? 973-720-2738. We don't know who's out there. We're getting an opportunity to share a piece of us with them. Right. So whether we make money or not, I feel now, would we be happy if it reached Michael Jackson status? Oh, yes, we would be. Oh, yes, we would be.
Right. But for now, I'll be doing what I can from here. And, I have Facebook account and Instagram account. You can catch me on Facebook. Just type in Norissa Howell.
There you go.
And Instagram, it's Rissa Written. That's RISSA Written. So you can check me out there, and I'll keep you guys posted, and you'll see whenever the song comes out officially.
That's right. Now, now because I have the inside scoop, and I'll know when it officially comes out, I'll let you know here, and I'll put it on my Facebook page and all my social media as well. So it'll be on all my social, and I have especially on LinkedIn, I have over 18,000 connections on LinkedIn, and and I have 5,000 plus on Facebook and on some of my other sites. So I'll put it out there. We'll let folks know, and then Norissa will put it on her work. And again, when we end the interview, as I customarily do, I shut my microphone off and I give my guest an opportunity to promote. And they can say anything they want, with the exception of a dollar amount. Now, at this point, I don't think Norissa has a dollar amount anyway, but even if she did, she couldn't say it here on the air because the guest and whoever worked that out when they talk. But at this point, Norissa, you can kind of, again, repeat what you just did in terms of how people can get in touch with you, in terms of how you'll let folks know whenever the single or the CD is released, all that kind of stuff. Do you have the opportunity? Again, we're getting ready to shut this part of the program down. So if you want to shout out or talk to Norissa, you better get it in now. 973-720-2738. For those that process numbers differently, 973-720-2738. 973-720-2738. Give us a call. We'll get you on the air. You already heard the call from Miss Mason. You heard a call from Ashley. If you want to call, this is your chance. You get a chance to talk to Norissa. Other than that, I'm getting ready to shut my mic off, and Norissa's going to have her opportunity to promote again Facebook pages, Instagram pages, what stations is going to be on, so forth and so on. So Norissa, you can take it away. Right. Any shout outs? Any of that, anything, the mic is yours at this point. I'm not saying anything.
All right. Well, I mean, I've already said this, but, my mom is my number one. Of course, I have to give a shout out to, of course, Marc Medley having me here today. I'm thankful for this opportunity, get a little bit of a look up, I guess. Again, you can reach me on Instagram. That's Rissa Written, RISSAWRITTEN, Rissa Written. That's on Instagram, and you can reach me on Facebook. Just write my name, Norissa Howell. That's Norissa, and then Howell, HOWELL. I just want to thank Pastor Ronique Young and his wife, Lady Monique. I love you guys so much. I love my church. I thank you, whoever's listening, for showing support. And yeah, I think that's about it. And I'll let you know on social media whenever the music will come out. You can see it on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, wherever.
All right. Well, again, we wish you nothing but Godspeed. We wish you the best. We love you much. As my mother can say, love you much. And want nothing but the absolute best for you.